Hi everybody, today we're going to be doing a how-to on how to service and fix your SwiftyONE rear brake and carry handle. So for this how-to you're going to need a set of books to prop your scooter on. Tool-wise we're going to need a 3, a 4, a 5 and an 8mm Allen key, and then with the wrenches you're going to need a 15mm and a 17mm spanner. So let's take a look at the rear fork of your SwiftyONE. To undo the fork, this is the carry handle here with the sliding pin, and the rear brake is located here, as you can see. The rear brake is actually super well engineered to do one thing, and that's to help us stop this wheel from moving. It's a pedal brake because, as you can see, putting a caliper in here would be very difficult with a traditional brake cable like the front brake on the front fork. So the rear brake is designed to scrape the tyre and provide friction onto this surface to then slow the tyre down. And I've got 3 brakes here that you can see, just to give you an example of how well it does the job. So this brake is about 4 or 5 years old, this one is about 2 years, and then this is brand new. So you can see these chevrons here, these are designed to scrape debris and water off the tyre. This chevron shape which pushes here ejects the water and the debris outside of the brake, so it takes it away from here, so it provides a nice surface to rub against the aluminium of this brake to apply braking force. So your brake should last you a good 3-4 years. This one definitely needs replacing, and we have these parts available on our website. So one of the questions we always get is, does the rear tyre wear out before the rear brake? So does this wear quite quickly? And the answer is it does wear a little bit, but this proof that you can see here shows that the aluminium does wear away. And this product particularly, it's been in service for a number of years, and the customer had the original tyre. So as hard as that is to believe, the reason is because the tyre has a much larger surface area than the aluminium. There's these 3 or 4 tiny little parts here which are designed to get hot, and they get hot before the tyre does, so it wears the aluminium before it wears the tyre away. So to service the rear brake and the carry handle, it's best to take the entire fork off before you do that. So the first stage would be to remove the wheel itself. So take your 15mm Allen spanner, I should say, not Allen key, undo the nuts, take out the retaining washers, and your rear wheel should slide off. I'll put that to one side. And then the next thing we're going to do is just disengage the rear fork so that this can rotate. And then the first thing you're going to do is take your big 8mm Allen key, pop it in there, and you use a 17mm spanner, and then just undo like so. That nut and bolt should not be too tight when you're putting it back on, but just enough to keep it nipped up. Pull this guy out like that, and this is actually an older frame, SwiftyONE frame. This is from 2017, so we've got 2 little washers in here. But anyone that's got a new scooter, so from like I guess 12 months ago, you don't actually have to put the washers in here anymore because we've changed the design of the frame. So now you've got your fork taken off your rear frame, it's a case of stripping this off and giving it a good old clean. So let's get into that now. For this you're going to need your 5, 4 and 3mm Allen key. Let's make a little bit of room. And the first thing we're going to do, a bearing popped out there. So if you do need to remove the bearings, your one, because it's been used, probably won't pop out the way it's just done. But if you want to remove the bearings, this is probably a good time to inspect this part as well. They're just pushed into the frame here. If you need to take them out, you can use something like the end of your Allen key, get inside the frame, just give it a good old tap, tap, tap. Be gentle, you don't need to hit too hard. They are a standard component, but if you tap them, they should eventually just wiggle out like so. Let's see. There we go. So 2 bearings taken out. Put those aside. Let's take off the carry handle first. and we'll go through how to service that one, and we'll finish off with the brake. So you can take anything that's flat, like a washer like this, and pull the pin all the way back and put your washer inside. And what you're going to do is you're going to try and unscrew this retaining bolt. I've made a mistake. That's really tight because I've not undone this one first. So if that's really hard to get out, make sure you undo this little bolt first. So this is a 4mm. You don't need to take it all the way off, just take it a little bit back. And what you'll see now is I'll be able to undo this quite easily. There you go. So if you find it's really hard, just follow that step first. So back this all the way off, like that. You'll be able to thumb screw it out after a second or two. And then the next thing is to take this pin here, you need a 3mm Allen key, push with your thumb down, and then undo this one. And what we're going to do is take out this little bolt, like that. And probably your scooter, I mean this is a brand new one pretty much, so that's why it's not dirty, but this will all be clogged up with dirt, and that's why it will probably stop this pin from working. So take this one out, you can see there's loads of grease on there, and then there'll be a spring inside. Give the spring a bit of a tap to get that guy out. That's there. So you can either take this over to the sink or a bucket outside with some degreaser or just some fairy liquid, I guess, fairy washing up liquid, I guess, and just give that a really good clean. If you need to use like an old toothbrush or something to get inside, then do that. So give that a good clean, get some really good quality grease, put that all back in, and then reassemble it all, and that part should be nice and clean and ready to go. So put that bolt back in, just follow the same steps as what I just did. Tighten that one back up, make sure it's nice and tight, it's all sitting nicely, and then put this big bolt back in, tighten it all up. When it comes to how tight do you actually reassemble, I always say go so it stops and just give it a little tweak so you know it's kind of nipped up. So that's like stopped, now just giving it a little tweak. That all seems to be running clean, good to go. And then tighten up with your 4mm the bolt on the other side. And what that does is it pulls that part together and makes it all nice and secure, so it gives extra pressure onto this bolt. So that's done. Okay, let's start with the rear brake. So now it's time to take the rear brake assembly. This will probably all be a little bit dirty, so it needs cleaning out, but ideally you need to take everything apart. It comes in two halves to be able to get in there and really service it and re-grease everything. So you need a 4mm Allen key, and this is a 5mm here. So what we're going to do is we're going to undo this little guide. It's like a guide rail basically to stop the brake from wobbling off center. So if you undo this first and take it out and put it aside, what you might want to do is just hold the brake forwards a little bit to take the pressure off it, and put that one there. Try and remember which bits go where, so you'll soon find out because they won't fit, and you'll see that the brake relaxes and the tension on the spring has relaxed a little bit. So the next step is to actually take this one off as well. Whoops, there's the tension. And we're going to take this one out as well. Again, keep all the parts. I'll explain how they go back. And the next stage is you'll find that this now moves quite easily. And then you put your Allen key in here and undo this one. So there is kind of a logic to the order which makes it easy. If you're struggling, it's because you've done it in the wrong order. So re-watch this video and try and copy what we're doing. So this is your 5mm bolt. Let's take that apart. You'll see everything start to come free now, and you should be able to just disassemble it all. So you've got three main parts. You've got the top, you've got the bottom, and you've got this gasket here, which is designed to be a plastic material. As you can see, this one doesn't have any grease. It should have some grease on there, so it's probably got a little bit of dirt in there. So just give this a good clean. Don't worry if the paint has worn away a bit. If you do get dirt in there and it's trapped and it's rubbing, it will end up rubbing the paint, but don't worry about that. So just give it a good clean, get it under the tap in the sink, get the grease out, and then try and give it a good grease and put the parts back on in the order that you just took it off. So this gasket has a small slot and a big slot. The big slot goes towards the bottom, and then the small slot goes on the top here. So just put that back in the same order and inspect all these parts. Might be a good opportunity to just check here to make sure that these edges are not too sharp. After some wear, as you can see on this one, the edges can become quite sharp. So you could just take a file and just rub that down. If you don't have a file, then I guess you could take a stone or something and you could just rub that back to break the edge so it's not too sharp. So give that a good grease, and then the idea is just put it back in the same order. So put the top part on first and then the bottom part on, like so. There is a tiny grub screw here, which is like a tensioning device to adjust how parallel to the foot plate the stomp part where your foot goes rests. So you can leave that in. You don't need to adjust that until you've reassembled everything. So start again by putting the bolts back in. So I always start with the big 5mm first. Put him back in there like that. Take note of how the spring is located. So you need this little washer to sit underneath because that's one of the guides. You don't need to tighten it up fully, but just get it to a point where it's close to being tight. You can tighten it all in. Then put this one back in. It's a countersunk. Use the 4mm Allen key, like so. That's looking good. And then the next one is to put this guide in. So put this spacer on there first. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put little the washer goes on top, sorry. I nearly put it in the wrong place myself. And then put this one in. So this can be the tricky one to get in place, but because you've got to put a little bit of tension on the spring itself. So I find putting the Allen key in allows you to drive a little bit of pressure. So the important thing is that you don't cross thread the bolt and going into the hole, and you can do that if you're not careful. So if it's not going in smoothly, there it's gone in now for me, and you're finding there's a lot of resistance and it's not freely going in, it's because you're cross threading it. So just be careful, just come back off and try again and make sure you get the bolt going directly down into the hole. So that's working, the spring's working now. And then the last bit is to put the next guide bush in there. There's this guy again, and drop him in. And you see I'm pushing down the brake to locate the brake a bit lower so that hole I have access to. And again, nip that one back up. And then you're good to go. There we go. And then go back in, just make sure these guys are all nice and tight. You don't want them rattling loose as you're scooting along, which can happen. And then final one here. And that's nice and free, nice and smooth. It should be nice and smooth. It should spring back nice like that. If it's not, then there's obviously an issue. If you need some parts, we provide all the parts. So you can buy them on our website. So from there, just reassemble back onto your scooter exactly the way that we did to strip it off. Don't forget your bearings if you've taken them out, and you're good to go. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an insight into how to service and maintain your rear brake and carry handle of your SwiftyONE. Thanks for watching today, the video. Please like, subscribe and hit that bell button if you're watching on YouTube. And yeah, let the good times ride and roll.